Our story begins with a group of students acting like, well, students. Talking about things that don't matter to most people, but for them, it's the center of the universe. But in the middle of this whole crowd, there's a boy who doesn't talk to anyone. His name is Seo Takuya, a first-year high school student. The reason he keeps to himself? He's an otaku. But not just any otaku. This guy is obsessed with those anime where the main character is a magical girl. He collects everything he can find about it. His current obsession is an anime called Brigman, a show for girls that airs every Sunday morning. But don't be fooled, the visuals are cute, but the story is super intense. Everyone says the plot is deep, mixed with some ridiculous jokes, and that's how the series won over fans' hearts. It all started off great, but the new season didn't go over so well, and Seo's mind is spinning from thinking about it while he stares at his eraser. Just then, a girl sitting in front of him, who happened to forget her own eraser, asks to borrow his. She swears it'll just be for a second, but our protagonist refuses to let go of the eraser no matter what. The girl doesn't get why he's making such a big deal until Seo can't take it anymore, stands up, totally embarrassed, and says that eraser's special to him. When the girl takes a closer look, she realizes it's from an anime. She even guesses it's Pokemon because it looks similar, but he quickly sets her straight. This super stylish girl is Kutoko Ijichi. She's a bit slow on the uptake. The classic, popular, and outgoing girl type. Flashy makeup and energy through the roof. Exactly the kind of person our protagonist can't stand. Kotoko is always hanging out with Amane Kei, another gorgeous girl, but with a much colder vibe, almost like a model. Seo doesn't really like Amane either, because in his mind, no girl that popular would ever be nice to an otaku. And it's right then that the two of them start talking about the eraser. Kotoko thinks the character is cute and laughs, but the mood shifts when Amane suddenly shows she knows the series. And it's not just that she knows it by name, she knows exactly which episode that specific character appears in for the first time. Seo is in shock, and Kotoko, finding it all amazing, starts asking about his other accessories. She wants to know what this Brigman thing is all about. This puts our hero on the spot. Feel the drama. This is the question every otaku dreams of hearing their whole life. He's shaking with excitement because he has no one to talk to about this stuff. But his defense radar goes off. He knows it could be a trap because people usually find it annoying when a fan gets too excited and starts talking nonstop. Even as he's holding back, he notices that Amane also seems to be restraining herself from saying anything. Kotoko notices her friend acting weird, but Amane quickly changes the subject, stands up, says she'll bring her a copy to read tomorrow, and shuts down the conversation. Amane's excuse, she says she only knows these things because her younger sister's a fan, and she ends up memorizing them by association. Nice excuse to dodge her friend's questions. As soon as he has some free time, Seo rushes to check it out for himself. He goes to check episode 2, just like Amane said. And guess what? That character really does show up there. Now, the kid's mind is racing. Could she be a closet fan? Even he, who lives and breathes this anime, didn't remember that the character's first appearance was there. It's an amazing show, of course, but it's aimed at kids, so it takes a while for the penny to drop. He's stuck in that dilemma, wondering if Amane is just as obsessed as he is or not. Speaking of Amane, you can tell she's super outgoing, but when her friends invite her to go to karaoke after class, she turns them down right away. The group gets a little sad and can't figure out why she doesn't want to go, especially today. Seo, who's watching everything from a distance, is dying to start a conversation, but since he has zero experience talking to girls, his insecurity really kicks in. Even so, he decides to work up the courage. He thinks, what if she's the first person I can talk to about Brigman? He goes after her, but as soon as Amane notices him coming, she corners him and gets straight to the point. She tells him not to get any ideas, that she only knows the anime because of her little sister, and that's it. Seo deflates instantly, gets super embarrassed, and apologizes. He lets his guard down and says he was gonna show her a limited edition keychain he had with him, but since she doesn't care, he'll just drop it. That's when the magic happens. Amani's attention is instantly caught. She recognizes the keychain, says she went to 3 different stores and only found one in the same color, and that the one he's holding is super exclusive. Seo just stares at her until she realizes she said too much and goes back to her little sister excuse. But our protagonist isn't fooled. He ignores the excuse and says that if she wants, she can open the packaging. She doesn't think twice, gets totally enchanted, and starts rattling off a bunch of technical details about the keychain. When Seo says he has 2 saved and can give her 1 as a gift, her smile lights up the whole room. Her joy is so genuine that it completely disarms the boy. She tries to play it off by saying her little sister will love it, but to Seo, that was the cutest thing in the world. The next day, we get to know Kotoko's energy a little better. She's a whirlwind of friendliness, greeting everyone in the morning with her energy through the roof. Everyone loves her vibe, and she's super popular with the boys, for obvious reasons. During class, Kotoko tries to joke around with Seo, pretending to be a UFO abducting his eraser, since once again she forgot hers. Seo is happy to see a popular girl treating him so naturally, even though her energy can be a bit overwhelming at times. Kotoko notices that the eraser is different from yesterday and calls the character Little Squirrel. Seo almost has a heart attack from happiness. That means she really did see Bridgman. According to Kotoko, she took a quick look because Amani lent her the manga. The boy can't hold back and starts spilling information, saying how the manga goes much deeper into the story than the anime. And before he knows it, he's already talking fast and getting way too intense. He immediately apologizes, expecting the classic rejection. But Kotoko is a Jill. She reassures him and asks him to speak slowly because she's paying attention. Watching him closely, she blurts out that he looks like Rocket Man, a super confident character from the series. Seo can't see the resemblance. That's when things get intense. Kotoko stands up, holds his face, looks deep into his eyes, and says that they both have big round eyes, so that's why they look alike. That much eye contact and physical closeness with a girl is just too much for someone who's always been isolated. Seo turns redder than a chili pepper, which makes Kotoko laugh a lot, since the manga character does the same thing. Taking advantage of the friendly vibe, Kotoko asks if he has Instagram. Seo's panic alarm goes off again. He does, but he's terrified of showing it to anyone. But Kotoko was quick. She already grabbed his phone and opened his account. It might seem funny, but for the boy, it's a real trauma. His profile is 100% focused on anime, and in the past, when people found out, he was ridiculed and suffered at the hands of others. He closes his eyes, thinking his world is over and that the nightmare of being made fun of at school is about to come back. But Kotoko's reaction is the opposite. She's amazed. His feed is full of incredible drawings that he made himself. She starts complimenting him nonstop, saying she really respects him for dedicating his soul to something he loves so much and collecting with such passion. Seo feels relieved, but she suggests that he should post other things from time to time as well. And without warning, she gets close to him and takes a selfie of the two of them together, suggesting that it would make a great photo for his feed. The otaku's heart races. Is it really possible to get along with girls like that? Sometime later, Seo is on the train heading home. His mind is elsewhere, thinking about Patch, a key character in the story who just left the anime in a tragic way. May God have mercy on him. He's really suffering and wants to vent, but he thinks he's alone in this pain. Until the train empties out a bit and he spots Amane in a corner, and she's got the same look of deep mourning on her face. To Seo, it's obvious she was crying over Patch, but he's not completely sure. Maybe it's something else. Then, a guy next to her playing on his phone complains that the game crashed and needs a patch to fix it. When she hears the word, Amane panics and shouts the character's name out loud. The gamers think she knows the game too and try to start a conversation, but Seo knows the truth all too well. She's just as much of an otaku as he is. That same day, the captain of the basketball team asks Amane out, but she turns him down flat, telling her friend she doesn't go out with people she doesn't know. Seo, watching from the sidelines, starts to doubt again. How can such a stunning girl be a fan of a girl's anime? But he starts paying more attention to her. Every now and then, Amani lets some anime terms slip, but quickly corrects herself. The masterstroke comes when he looks at her backpack and spots a super rare pin of a magic wand from the series. Seo himself had avoided buying it, thinking it was too girly for him. Now there's no doubt left. Before he can celebrate his discovery, Amane suddenly shows up, notices he saw the pin, and immediately blurts out the old scratched record, "It was my little sister who wanted us to match." But Seo doesn't care about the excuses anymore. He fishes for information, says he cried a lot when Patch had a rough time, and asks if she really hates the anime that much. Amane gets serious, leans in close to his ear, and whispers that actually she really loves the series. When she sees his face turn bright red with embarrassment, she pulls back and makes up a story that she was talking about her sister, just to avoid any misunderstandings. The problem? Kotoko was right behind them, saw the whole whispering scene, and immediately asked if the two of them were dating. Amani desperately tries to explain herself, asking the otaku for help, but the guy was already off in another galaxy. For now, they drop the subject. Back in the classroom, the atmosphere is tense. The English teacher's super strict, and Seo realized he forgot his book at home. If his desk is empty, he's done for. He tries to play it cool by using his math book instead, but the teacher announces that the students will read aloud in order of the attendance list. Seo's name is right at the top, and every person who stands up feels like torture. Panic sets in hard. Kotoko, who was about to lend him a red pen, realizes it's a life or death situation. Seo's already picturing the public humiliation, but Kotoko simply raises her hand and loudly says she forgot her book. The whole class lets out a fond little laugh, because everyone loves her. The teacher tells her to share with someone. She turns to Seo, says she'll share with him, and even whispers, laughing at him, that using the math book was a really stupid idea. Seo realizes she saved him on purpose, as a thank you for always lending her things. And on top of that, she still lends him that red pen. At the end of class, the two girls are surrounded by invitations to go to karaoke again. Everyone thinks the two of them are amazing, and Seo hears it all while trying to sneak home. In their minds, they live in different worlds. But today, he doesn't care. It's the release day for the surprise Bridgemon figures. He really wants to get the special edition, but on the way, he ends up helping a super nervous man find City Hall, showing him the way because the guy didn't know how to use the GPS on his phone. Because of his good deed, he arrives late at the store. To his surprise, Kotoko and Amane are there too. Amane quickly comes up with the excuse that it's for her little sister, and Kotoko greets him like it's the most natural thing in the world. Seal finds out that they ditched karaoke because the group invited a bunch of guys and it turned into a couples meetup. And since the mystery box was released today, Kotoko, being totally honest, says she saw her friend super excited and thought it would be fun to tag along. Seo tries to work up the courage to suggest they buy a bunch of boxes together to increase their chances, but his voice falters when he sees the two of them so in sync, chatting about things he doesn't even understand. He thinks about backing off and coming back later, but the two girls run after him and stop him. They know exactly what he wants and insist that they buy together. Amane keeps up the little sister excuse while Kotoko encourages him to pick out a box. Seo's good deed pays off. He gets exactly the figure he wanted. Kotoko pulls a secret edition and is over the moon, while Amane gets the beloved patch, which makes her cry with emotion right then and there. They have such a great time together that Seo finally starts to believe he can really be friends with them. The next day, Kotoko shows up all excited, talking about things that make absolutely no sense to most people. Seo doesn't really get it until Amani translates for him. Kotoko is freaking out because of the 4th episode of Bridge 1. Seo's a bit surprised, because deep down, it still hasn't sunk in for him that such a beautiful girl could be an otaku. Kotoko starts asking questions about the series, and Seo and Amane explain everything in great detail. They talk about the 14 episodes, the Blu-ray release, and the famous exclusive episode 0 that no one saw on TV. Instead of finding it boring, Kotoko gets super excited to watch it. Seo sees this as a golden opportunity to strengthen their friendship and says he can lend her the Blu-ray. But Kotoko, who is really innocent, just comes out and asks if they can go to his place after class to watch it. Amani feels like her friend is being way too impulsive, and Seo, panicking, makes up an excuse that his room is a mess with drawings scattered all over the floor to try to get them to give up. It was the worst excuse ever. As soon as Amani hears Bridgemon drawings, her eyes light up, and she decides they're definitely going. She even corners the boy, saying she needs to learn how to draw for her little sister. Seo is in shock while Kotoko celebrates their field trip to the otaku's house. And there they are, 3 hours later. Seo looks around and reality hits him hard. The two most popular girls in school are in his room like it's the most normal thing in the world? He had never brought anyone there before. The pressure is unreal. The two of them start exploring everything. Amane is amazed by the action figures he has, the ones she was never able to buy. Meanwhile, Kotoko tries to hunt down baby pictures of him in the school yearbook. Seo tries to speed things up, wanting to hand them the discs so they'll leave already, but Kotoko comes up behind him, leans on his back, and declares that it's better if they all watch together. Her presence breaks down any defense the boy has. He tries to argue, saying he's loud and ruins the experience, that he waves glow sticks around like he's at a concert. He swears that no normal person does that, but apparently Amane does. Seo makes up an excuse that he feels embarrassed, but so Amane doesn't feel bad, he says it's fine if it's with friends. Kotoko thinks it's a brilliant idea and really wants to see this crazy side of her friend. Seo works up the courage, they turn off the lights, grab the glow sticks, and hit play. What happens next is a spectacle. Seo and Amane go into a total trance. They comment on every scene, get hyped about the animation, cry over the characters, and live every second to the fullest. For Kotoko, it's hilarious to see how insanely in sync the two of them are. They even freak out when a mysterious girl appears on the screen. Seo's glowing! Finally, he doesn't have to hide who he is, and life suddenly feels so worth it. Until Pat shows up on the screen for a split second. Amane gets so excited that, without realizing it, she throws herself on top of Seo. His world stops. Everything goes dark, she's pressed up against him, and her perfume fills the air. He can't even hear the anime anymore. His heart is racing so fast it feels like it's on fire. Amane, feeling how close they are, tries to play it cool by angrily asking if he's even paying attention. The tension in the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Kotoko snaps a picture of the scene. Amane lunges at her friend to delete the evidence, and in the middle of the chaos, Kotoko jokes that she's gonna post the photo. When she realizes she might get killed right then and there, she changes the subject and asks to see the drawings he posts on Instagram. Seo gives in and shows him his profile, but asks them not to freak out. What shocks Amane isn't the drawings, but his username, Otaku Ocean. Kotoko thinks he's famous because someone recognized him, but he only has 50 followers. The big detail? Amane is one of those 50 followers. She recognizes the account right away and feels super proud. She says she was looking for fan art from the series one day and loved his work. Seo is mortified with embarrassment, but really happy to have her support. The conversation just flows naturally. They talk about other artists in the community, and Kotoko doesn't miss a chance to tease them, saying the two of them look like a couple with lots of secrets, which makes Amane furious. The vibe is so good that Amane ends up on Seo's bed drawing, totally interested in his process. He's freaking out on the inside, but he stays focused so he doesn't have any impure thoughts. Kotoko, seeing the scene, slams on the brakes and asks the question that freezes the whole room: which one of us is more your type? A deathly silence takes over the room. Seo can't handle the pressure, grabs a game box and points to the character on the cover. This one. The two of them burst out laughing. After all, it was the most expected answer from an otaku. The end of the day, they say their goodbyes. Seo thanks them so much for their company, since it was the first time he had so much fun, and he hopes he was a good host. Kotoko tells him to relax and says the afternoon was amazing. Amane, all shy, also thanks him for having them over. They leave with SEU on cloud 9. He finally has friends. On the way back, Kotoko reflects on how Seiyu is super serious and thoughtful, while Amane thinks about how it's been a long time since she let loose like that. Basically, both of them start to find the boy really interesting. Meanwhile, Seiyu is alone in his room, still smelling their perfume in the air. The temptation is huge. The poor guy loses it. He can't draw, can't sleep, and starts seeing visions of girls in every corner of his room. The next day, the boy shows up at school looking totally wrecked, just a shell of himself. His friends notice, but he tries to play it off. After class, Amane is alone, and he sees the perfect opportunity to finally solve the mystery once and for all. He tries to get her to give up the alternate account she uses on Insta, but Amane refuses, saying she follows way more than just Bridgemon. For SEU, that's the perfect confession. She doesn't use her sister's account. But Amane pushes back, sticking to her story that she made the account for her little sister, who doesn't have a phone. Seiyu throws in the towel, but plays his final card. He says his dream was to watch and comment on the anime live with another fan. Amane falls right into the trap and agrees, fully embracing her otaku side. The long-awaited Sunday finally arrives, and Seiyu is more nervous than usual. The two agree to watch the episode and comment on it together by messaging each other at the same time. On her phone, Amane doesn't even try to hide her passion for the series. The morning, in a nutshell, they talked about the anime. In the afternoon, they kept talking. At night, that 20-minute episode gave them something to talk about all day long. They say goodbye, both super happy with their marathon. On Monday, Amane gets to school, starts up a conversation like it's nothing, and says Sunday was amazing, asking if they can do it again. Seiyu, being a gentleman, says she's the boss. Kotoko watches everything, mouth wide open. For the first time in her life, the popular, confident girl is thrown off, calls the two of them shameless, and refuses to listen to any explanation from her friend. On another day, Seiyu was walking around the mall and comes across a super rare special Bridgemone item. He's about to buy it when some kids bump into him. Who's watching these little troublemakers? Kotoko is, but she's without makeup, dressed super simply, in a way he never imagined he'd see her. She panics, pulls him aside, and begs him to keep it a secret, since her family's big, life is hectic, and she was out shopping for her mom. Seiyu barely listens. To him, she looks beautiful, and the whole scene is just ridiculously cute. Her brothers show up and start teasing, asking if he's her boyfriend, which makes Kotoko shut them up with pure rage. Back at school, Seiyu tells Amane about the item he found at the mall, but without revealing Kotoka's secret, saying he found it at some random supermarket. The problem starts when he sends the location. Kotoko is outraged when she finds out the two of them already follow each other on Instagram. They talk about the Sunday marathon, and Kotoko, feeling left out, demands to be added too. Seiyu has no way out and agrees. Kotoko takes the opportunity to tease that Amane takes ages to reply to messages, but Seiyu defends his friend, saying that over the weekend she replied super fast. Kotoko feels the sting of jealousy and declares that from now on she's gonna message Seiyu. The boy says he'd love that, because he doesn't have any other friends and is always available. His answer leaves both girls deep in thought. The story reaches its peak when Seiyu gets out of a relaxing shower, grabs his phone, and realizes he has two new friends on Insta and two unread messages. One is from Amane, asking if he's free on the weekend to take her to an anime merchandise store, and the other is from Kotoko, inviting him to go to the movies. Now, our protagonist is right in the middle of a minefield. Two separate invitations, two amazing girls, and he's gonna have to make a tough choice. But our protagonist thinks that if they invited him separately, it must be some kind of prank. But he already knows both of them well enough to know they wouldn't do something like that. That's why now he regrets not having two bodies. But exactly because he doesn't have two bodies, he thinks the best thing is to go out with both of them at the same time. Soon they meet up, and the girls are obviously stunning. They're so beautiful that while they're teasing him, calling him greedy for having both of them there, all he can feel is grateful to be alive. But they also have a little private conversation. Kotoko teases her friend, since it was the first time Amane was going out alone with the boy. Amane fires back, asking if Kotoko wanted him all to herself. But of course, it's all just playful banter. Amane, for example, says she already had something planned, so it doesn't matter who comes along. If all three of them go, that's totally fine. But Kotoko has another idea. They could take turns going on dates. She would walk around by herself for an hour, and when his time with Amane was up, Kotoko would get her turn alone with him. But she warns them not to go too far, and definitely not to go to a motel or anything like that, something they would never do, of course. Or at least that's what they say, but I don't really buy it. So in the end, Amane and our protagonist end up alone together. Since they're nearby, they take the opportunity to go to an anime store. And as she mentioned before, the goal is to get an item that's being released that very day. Everything's fine, but there's one problem. She's still way too dazzling and draws a lot of attention. In fact, a couple of annoying guys even show up to say she's totally their type, going so far as to invite her out for a drink and even mock our poor protagonist, saying he looks like her little brother. Obviously, Takuya isn't ready for situations like this. He gets super nervous and has no idea what to do, but Amane knows exactly how to handle it. She acts cold as ice, says she's not the least bit interested, and shuts those guys down right away. But afterward, she apologizes to our protagonist, thinking she might have scared him. He tries to say not at all, but she knows she can be intimidating sometimes, since her gaze is pretty intense. Even when she's just saying something normal, people sometimes think she's angry, which actually works out great in situations like this. Feel the drama. To our protagonist, honestly, she was amazing. She's so amazing that even though he's an otaku, he can't hide how impressed he is, which she likes, but then she gets offended because according to her, she's not an otaku. But once they're inside the store she wanted to visit, the girl gets super excited by an anime stuff. Our protagonist is super happy, thinking they have the same interests, but Amane kills the vibe and says it's not like that because all that stuff is for her little sister. Meanwhile, another otaku passing guy sees a super attractive girl with a shy guy. That makes the guy really happy and he cheers him on from afar. After that, they go grab some coffee. Amane seems really happy because her little sister really wanted that stuff. That makes our protagonist curious, so he asks what this little sister she keeps talking about is like. What he didn't expect was that right then, she would make him promise to keep a secret. He doesn't really understand what it's about, but he agrees. Then comes the biggest surprise of all. Apparently, she's an only child, which everyone pretty much expected, obviously. However, she has a neighbor who's a little girl and acts like a younger sister. She always comes over to play with Amane and is treated like family, which is why Amane talks about her so much. This really puts our protagonist at ease because he was already starting to think the girl had disappeared for good, or even worse, that she was an imaginary sister. And according to Aman, she always calls her little sister because it's just easier that way. It saves her from having to explain all the details all the time. But in this case, our protagonist is even happier because he'd love to meet the girl. He mentions that the Bridgman anime is more for kids and that he's never talked to anyone who actually liked the series. Amani quickly figures out that he wants to go to her house. And Takuya says he wouldn't mind that at all. He apologizes, explaining that he gets a little too excited about anything related to Bridgman and sometimes speaks without thinking. Amane actually finds that kind of cute, but right at that moment, Kotoko shows up. Time passed, and now it's her time. She takes him straight to the park. Our protagonist doesn't get why, but she explains that there aren't any movies that last just an hour, so instead she's gonna show him something fun. She starts messing around, taking pictures of him and adding some really ugly filters. Actually, that's her plan for today, to get back at him for the other day when he saw her without makeup. Since there aren't many options and no way to defend himself, Takuya lets her take a bunch of embarrassing photos. He also tries to take some pictures of her, but Kotoko won't let him. Then she thinks it over and comes up with an even better idea, recording a dance video. Honestly, I would have told her to take a hike at that point, but our protagonist is shy and just says he doesn't know how to dance. Kotoko, however, just wants him to copy her dance moves. The music starts playing and she teaches him a bunch of moves. He tries to copy as best he can, but he's as stiff as a board. The poor guy really tries hard, and Kotoko can't stop laughing, finding the whole thing hilarious. Obviously, Takuya is dying of embarrassment and thinks he's totally ruined his reputation, so he begs her not to post the dance. He also asks what kind of dance that was. The girl, being really mischievous, keeps it a secret and doesn't tell him that it was actually a couple's dance. Time with her just flew by, and then it's Amani's turn again. But at the spot where he's waiting for her, something really catches our protagonist's eye. Some cable protectors designed after his favorite anime. Kotoko notices that he really loves that anime and asks what else he likes. It's like opening a portal because Takuya starts talking about a ton of things, almost all of them related to anime. For Kotoko, it's fine that he likes that stuff, but she's way more interested in knowing if he likes any girl. That catches Takuya off guard, since he can't imagine himself falling in love. According to him, he just wasn't born for that. Kotoko admits that she used to think that way too. She didn't really care because she preferred spending time with her family and friends, but she tells him straight to his face that he made her a little curious. And I'm not gonna say anything, but we all know exactly what kind of curiosity that is. Luckily, or maybe it was fate, I don't know, our protagonist didn't really catch that part. To top it off, Amani shows up right on time and Kotoko pretends she doesn't know what's going on. In the end, it was an awesome day, and the three of them had a blast. Soon, they're back at school and still talking about Bridgemon. Apparently, in the new episode, a character named Bachelor Jack showed up, and both Takuya and Amane are super excited because his voice actor is someone they already know. Whenever they like something, they remember it really well. Kotoko thinks that's pretty cool, because with a memory like that, they're gonna do great on next week's tests. The problem is, they had no idea about the tests. He asks Amane how she did on the last exams. Adding up all 5 subjects, he barely got over 300 points, which makes him a little embarrassed. And then he asks Kotoko. Curiously, Kotoko, who anyone would think is more laid back, scored 423 points. Meanwhile, Amani only managed to get 175. Seeing the situation, Kotoko, being a great friend, didn't want to see the two of them struggle and started helping a lot with their studies. The downside is that being around 2 girls as pretty as them, it's hard for him to concentrate very well. Even so, curiosity gets the better of him and he asks Kotoko how she manages to be such a good student. And according to her, you just have to pay attention and review a little bit and everything works out. Obviously. Of course, that really hurts their pride, but Kotoko can't help them all the time either. She has to leave because her mom isn't home and it's up to her to make dinner. That makes Amane remember that her parents aren't home today either. With that, Kotoko says goodbye and tells the two of them to keep studying without any distractions. But then their expectations went through the roof and they start talking about Bridgemon, something they swore they wouldn't do since they're so responsible. But 3 hours later, they're already drawing stuff from the anime and wasting a ton of time. Somehow, they get into a drawing war that ends up being a lot of fun. On the way back home, they're super happy about the time they spent together. Amane still wants to improve as much as she can. They were about to press the button to cross the street, but accidentally brushed hands. And you know what happens next, right? The two of them got super embarrassed. Of course, they try to act mature and pretend it's no big deal, but right after that, they walk far apart, unable to even look at each other. Luckily, Amane gets home and they're about to say goodbye, but she stops our protagonist and asks if he wants to come in with her. Obviously, this is an opportunity you can't pass up. But hold on, it's nothing like that. They just want to keep up their drawing war. But it's also true that her parents aren't home. And if you remember, she's an only child, which means the two of them are completely alone. Takuya can't hide how nervous he is. It's his first time in a girl's room, so he's looking all around to see what he can find. And Amane is also really nervous because she had never brought a boy there before. So to break the ice, our protagonist starts looking at her collection, and Amane thinks that's a great idea. She quickly shows him a super rare acrylic figure that you could only get by winning a magazine lottery. Takuya is left speechless. Apparently, Amane worked really hard together with her little sister to get the item. She says that the girl is always begging to talk about Bridgman. But right at that moment, her little sister shows up and says that's a total lie. Actually, it's her little sister who has to put up with Amane talking non-stop about Bridgman. She even calls our protagonist her boyfriend and tells him not to let himself be fooled. Amane is startled to see Saya there. First of all, she asks what the girl meant by boyfriend, but then realizes she needs to introduce the two of them. So she introduces her as Sayu Aayama. The little girl introduces herself in a really cute way. She explains that their families are very close and that today she came to make dinner for Amane. Apparently, if Sayu doesn't come to help, Amane tries to survive on just water. The protagonist asks if Sayu likes Bridgemon, but she replies that she lost interest in it during her first year, although she admits she was the one who got her friend hooked. The downside was that when Sayu gave up on the series, Amane was already totally hooked. Even though she's older now, the little girl doesn't know what to make of the fact that Amane is still such a big fan. That was a direct blow to the pride of those two poor souls. They start cracking a bunch of jokes, but then comes the interesting part. Sayu shows in 1,000 different ways that her friend is totally into our protagonist. Even though Amane swears she's only got eyes for anime characters, the poor thing can't handle the embarrassment and tries to send the little girl off to cook already. In the end, the two of them are alone again, but it's obvious from a mile away that the girl is way more mature than Amane. Our protagonist doesn't even know what to make of all this. Anyway, they want to keep up the drawing war, but now there's some kind of bet involved. Amane says that if she loses in her own house, she'll do whatever he tells her to. That motivates Takuya like crazy because he's already planning to take her exclusive acrylic stand when he wins. Amane was worried he'd ask for something dumb, but now she'd actually prefer that over losing her rare item. But our protagonist is fair and promises to give her something of equal value if she wins. The battle starts and, in the end, Takuya wins. Yeah, it wasn't all that exciting. Since she'd already lost, Amane thinks it would have been better if he just asked for that silly thing. But in her mind, silly thing just means a hug or something like that. The problem is, little Sayu overheard all of this and got really offended. After all, two grown-ups acting like degenerates when there's a kid at home is not cool. It was all a lot of fun, but before the protagonist went home, Amane wanted to talk about something serious. She basically decides to trust him and talk about Sayu. She knows the girl's a bit more immature than she seems and doesn't have many friends to invite over, but seeing how everyone had fun that day made her super happy. You can really feel the vibe. Takuya realizes that the two of them really love each other a lot and thanks them for that moment. Amane hears this and gets all flustered too. Sayu says she thinks it's sweet that he says thank you, even though she's just a kid. Amane even feels proud saying that he's her friend, but she can't help but point out that he's still an otaku who sometimes acts like a kid. She was about to say more, but Sayu immediately realizes what it is: love. Dying of embarrassment, Amane tries to deny it, but Sayu keeps teasing her. In the end, exam season passes. Our protagonist scored about 291 points. The amazing Kotoko scored 408, while Amane was the only one who did poorly. This offends the girl, because she and Takuya spend time together, so to her, he's a traitor. On the other hand, Kotoko immediately notices that the two of them are closer than before and asks what they've been up to. And since she doesn't like to lose, she calls out our protagonist in front of everyone to go see a movie after class, since they couldn't last time. She makes it very clear that it's a date, which leaves poor Takuya totally nervous, while Amane has to stay and study. Obviously, the protagonist ends up giving in on him. When they get to the theater, he checks out the movies. To be honest, he doesn't really like almost anything, but he thinks a romance would be nice, until his eyes land on a poster for Zombies vs. Shark. The idea is so ridiculous that he wants to watch it right away. Kotoko notices this and agrees to watch that movie anyway. She makes it very clear that even if it doesn't seem like it, he needs to be honest about his own tastes, and next time, they're just gonna see something she wants. During the movie, he confirms that the film is total garbage, but for some reason, Kotoko is moved to tears, thinking it's all so beautiful. Besides that, they also go play some games and the protagonist loses. He feels humiliated. After all, he's an otaku and he was supposed to win. But according to Kotoko, that's because her siblings always force her to play, so she ended up getting good at it. Later, while they're walking around, they find one of those claw machines with a giant chocolate that looks delicious. Kotoko loves it, but she's never managed to win. She swears it's impossible and that the machine is rigged. Suddenly, our protagonist goes over and manages to win the prize. He gives her the treat right away and tries to win another one. Kotoko is charmed, seeing how seriously he actually takes it. Takuya is also happy because he got his revenge. He feels like he's doing great, and the vibe between them is really nice. They take some pictures together, and she finds it funny that before the protagonist used to get really nervous around her, but not anymore. She even thinks he might have grown in some way because of Mane, which makes her a little sad. But he clarifies that he only acts this way with Kotoko, and she kind of loves hearing that. Besides that, Takuya is really observant and notices details she never would have expected. That even surprises him, because before he could barely look people in the eye. But Kokoda showed up being super friendly, and he believes it's all thanks to her. On the way back, the girl keeps her distance because she's embarrassed, but she doesn't want to show it at all. Because of that, our protagonist thinks he messed up somehow, so she has to let her know everything's fine and ends up getting closer, even though she's still dying of embarrassment. On the other hand, we see that Amane was also watching a movie by herself. And look, it's considered a masterpiece of love and tears. Every couple who watches this movie ends up even more in love. This makes her remember that date our protagonist had with Kotoko. So when they get to class, she goes straight over to talk to them. Poor Amane, a little nervous, asks which movie they went to see. She thought that if they had watched that romance movie, maybe they'd be closer, but what they actually saw was Zombies vs. Sharks. According to Kotoko, it was a lot of fun. A man can't believe they watched that on a date, but at the same time, it puts her at ease. But then she wonders why she feels so relieved, since according to her, she doesn't care what they do. Kotoko also says that they used a photo booth. Feel the drama. Amane immediately gets worried, thinking there was a romantic vibe. She wonders if they were doing poses, holding hands or something like that. But nope, they were dressed up as a zombie and a shark. Kotoko's all happy because the photos turned out great, but she accidentally drops a small photo. It's her with an older man. Takuya catches a glimpse of the picture and immediately wonders who that guy is. Meanwhile, Kotoko almost has a heart attack. The poor thing gets startled and says she needs to go to the bathroom to take care of something, running off right away. Then our protagonist starts to worry, thinking the guy might be her boyfriend. That makes him curious because she had said she didn't care about love, but apparently she has someone and even goes out with him, which he doesn't think is right. Right at that moment, Amane says that Kotoko has an older brother, but she had never seen the guy's face and knows for sure that it's not her dad. And honestly, being a little older isn't a problem at all, but that guy looks like someone who's already paying child support. Now that's a problem. Amane even worries, thinking he might be a sugar daddy, and our protagonist is concerned about that too. Kotoko isn't the kind of girl who would do something like that, but she hid the photo so quickly that it left some doubts in the air. So Amane wonders if they should really get involved in this. After all, it's her life. However, our protagonist says yes, they need to. Both girls are very important friends to him. If either of them has a problem, he wants to help however he can. That's why they form a committee to help Kotoko. And right at that moment, she sees the two of them together and feels like she needs to give some explanations. That's why she comes over and tries to explain that actually that person was her older brother. She was always really close to him as the youngest sister, so she understands it might seem a little weird. Hearing that immediately puts both of them at ease. But then comes the question, how many siblings does Kotoko have? So she explains that she has 5 siblings, 2 younger and 2 older. Just to give you an idea, the oldest of them is 18 years older than her. And well, with that, everything becomes a lot clearer. Right at that moment, someone shows up to tell Amane that it's time to work on something. She wants to go right away, but before she leaves, she tells her friend that if anything happens, she has to tell them, or at least her. She's a really important friend. That makes the poor girl a little embarrassed, but she says it's okay and that she expects the same from her. With that, Amane leaves. Kokoda turns to our protagonist and says she almost fell for her because of the way she just spoke. He thinks that's a bit of an exaggeration, but comments that it's really nice to have friends you can open up to without being afraid of anything. But since he's almost too honest, that goes straight to Kotoko's heart. Later, in other classes, everyone gets the announcement that there will be a ball sports tournament, so everyone needs to confirm which team they're going to play on. And honestly, neither Kotoko nor Takuya are happy about it. Kotoko feels embarrassed just thinking about playing ball sports, and our friend thinks he gets embarrassed in sports in general. But then Amane shows up and says it's her time to shine. Takuya comments that she doesn't need to try so hard. She immediately gets offended, thinking our otaku friend believes she's useless. But that's fine. Tomorrow he'll be surprised when he sees the girls' basketball game. That's why she asks him to come watch. And that's exactly what our protagonist does. During the game, we see Amane absolutely dominating on the court. She's really good at playing and stands out a lot, with everyone praising her. Some girls even start talking about how Amane made it to the national championship back in middle school. She even earned a nickname, the Iron Mask. That's because she never smiles, not even when she pulls off an amazing play. But our protagonist is sure that deep down, she must be really happy. He remembers that Amane might seem kinda unapproachable, meaning not many people try to talk to her because they're intimidated. And since she's such a good and popular player, maybe people misunderstand her. At this point, she was already about to head back for the next half of the match. She seemed to be looking for someone around there, but didn't think much of it and went straight to practice, until our protagonist decided to cheer up from the stands. And as soon as she heard his voice cheering her on, she broke into a beautiful smile in front of everyone. Of course, no one has any idea who that smile was for, but there's no doubt it was wonderful, and most people fell in love right then and there. On the other hand, Amane feels like now she's gonna have to show off even more. While she's playing, she thinks that sure, maybe she's not as smart or as friendly as her friend, but she has her own qualities and wants to show them off. But right at that moment, she starts thinking about our protagonist. She doesn't really understand why she's doing that now either. Because of that, she gets distracted without meaning to and ends up tripping. Now she has free throws to make the basket. According to Amane, she kinda understands why she can't get him out of her head. It's because she wants to get revenge. He beat her on the tests, so she wants to beat him at sports, at least. Because of course it's not like she has feelings for him or anything like that, but thinking exactly about that, she ends up making the basket. Everyone cheers and gets excited, feeling like the team is gonna win. One of her friends comes over to congratulate her and comments that it's obvious she loves this. That scares Amane, who was thinking about our protagonist. She says it's not that she hates it, but saying she loves it is a bit much. But of course, her friend was talking about basketball. Then Amane agrees and says that in fact, she really likes the sport. That's why the girls ask her to join the team, since with her, they'd be unbeatable. But that doesn't totally convince her. After the game, our protagonist goes to see what's left for him. He ended up signing up for baseball. The poor guy is super worried, thinking he might fail badly and make everyone hate him. But right then he remembers Kotoko saying that she also gets secondhand embarrassment when it comes to ball sports. So he gets worried and decides to go see how she's doing. And when he gets there, he realizes that she's actually really bad at it. The poor girl wonders why this thing doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Meanwhile, the people who are actually there for the sport are wondering why there are so many people watching. There's almost never anyone there, and actually there are more boys there than at the basketball game. That's why our protagonist figures it must be because of Kotoko. They're all just a bunch of clueless guys. But putting that aside, he notices that his friend, even though she's terrible at the game, doesn't give up on trying to get it right. And that's actually pretty inspiring too. So when it's his turn to play, he thinks that even though he's really bad, he still needs to give it a shot. His moment comes and he mentally prepares himself to hit the ball. As expected, he's a total disaster because he doesn't hit a single ball and does really badly as a batter. He's sure it's all over and that everyone's gonna hate him. But suddenly, one of his teammates comes over and says that he didn't give up and did a great job trying. Another one's surprised too, because he really put in the effort, and so little by little, his own team starts to really support him. They think that even if they lose, they're still gonna have a lot of fun. Of course, that's exactly what a loser would say, right? But at that very moment, he notices that Amane and Kotoko have arrived at the field. Everyone sees the two of them together, gets impressed, and starts wondering if they came to cheer for someone. Some of the more delusional guys think they came for him. But nope, they're actually talking about the real protagonist, our friend from the class. Amane asks Kotoko if she's already talked to Takuya about it, and she says no, that she'll do it later. And well, that's exactly what they do. When they get together, they say there's gonna be an open barbecue. Basically, it's a celebration party. Both volleyball teams, the basketball teams, and the soccer guys are all going. To sum it up, it's a place where only people who really like to socialize go, and our protagonist isn't into that. Actually, for Amane, there are too many guys going, so she's not interested either. But Kokoto says the girls from the basketball team really want her to be there. But there was one thing they didn't expect. Takuya can't go because he already has plans. Apparently, he made plans to go to karaoke with the baseball team. They even let him sing anime songs. It's the first time someone besides them has invited him out. As soon as Kotoko and Amane hear this, they're super happy for him. He's making real friends, so they're really proud of him. But Amane feels a little bit jealous, because according to her, they're gonna have more fun being able to sing those kinds of songs. Which Kotoko finds kind of funny, because even if they let her, Amane wouldn't go if it was just guys. But that gives Kotoko an idea. She wants the three of them to go to karaoke another day. Summer break's coming up soon, so they can go to the beach, to festivals, and things like that. That gets Amane excited right away. Our protagonist starts thinking about it, because last summer he spent almost the whole time at home. Not that it was a bad vacation, but Kotoko and Amane notice that he really spaced out. So they already tell him to start clearing his schedule. But of course, before talking about vacation, first they need to pass their exams to earn those days off. And well, time passes again until we get to karaoke day. I show up by surprise because they never set an exact date. They just showed up. But what's done is done, and there's no way to back out now. They're super chill, but he's a bit awkward and apologizes to both of them inside. He feels bad for making them spend time alone with him. But both of them get upset because they had already given him a heads up before. They want to be with him because they have fun together, and that's that. They insist so much that our protagonist decides to make the most of the moment. Kotoko and Amane like seeing that energy, so they make him sing first. While he's picking a song, Kotoko takes the chance to talk to Amane. She blurts out that if he sings well, Amane will definitely end up falling for him. Amane just laughs it off. Anyway, our protagonist has already picked a song, and even though they're just joking around, Amane and Kotoko start to think that maybe he really can sing well. Who knows, maybe he'll pick something other than an anime song and surprise them both. But nope, of course, he puts on an anime opening. He spends the whole song singing at the top of his lungs, pouring his heart and soul into it. When he finishes, the girls are genuinely surprised. Actually, they really like the performance because he put so much passion into it. Amane even says that if he had told her beforehand, the two of them could have sung together. Then Kotoko says that they can sing together now. This leaves the two of them a bit confused, because apparently Kotoko knows the song and really likes it. She's an angel to her friends. So the afternoon goes by, and the three of them have a blast with all of this. They put their heart and soul and their voices into every song, but as you'd expect, they end up totally exhausted from singing so much. That's when our protagonist notices that Kotoko looks a lot like Michi, a famous idol from an anime. Kotoko doesn't get it at all, but Amane immediately agrees. They were just about to start talking about each person's favorite scene, but as soon as Kotoko saw the character, she tried to imitate one of her lines. She turned to our protagonist and said she'd always be by his side, but the impression didn't come out very well. Amane actually gets offended and tells her to do it right or not even bother trying. And well, right after that, our protagonist goes to refill his drink, and Kotoko's too. On the way, he keeps thinking about how amazing it is and how much fun it is to spend time with them. But before going back to the room, he realizes he doesn't know which cup is his. Feel the drama. This makes the guy super tense, because it gives him that basic sense of anxiety. He was almost about to switch the straws, just to make sure she wouldn't drink from where he drank. But right at that moment, Kotoko comes out, grabs her cup, and takes a drink. The guy immediately feels terrible, and Kotoko gets startled, thinking someone put coffee in her drink. Our protagonist says no, but she still thinks he played some kind of prank because he's staring too much. That's when he ends up explaining that maybe they just had an indirect kiss. That makes Kotoko laugh a lot, saying they're not kids anymore and that it's just silly. Seeing that she doesn't care, our protagonist relaxes too and goes back to the room. He goes to check what the next song will be to sing with Amane, but deep down, Kotoko is dying of embarrassment. The whole time she thought it really was just silly, but with him, it's a different story. In the end, they're exhausted but really happy. On top of that, they're super excited because summer break is coming up. That reminds Amane that she needs to tell Kotoko something. She asks her friend to save a day in the middle of August so they can go out together. And just like that, Kotoko wants to set up another day with her, a barbecue at the beach. Her older brother organizes a family barbecue every year. Usually it's just him and his two younger siblings, so Amane will feel totally comfortable. But of course, it's not just with Amane. She wants our protagonist to come along too. He's a bit unsure, since it seems like a really family-oriented event, and he doesn't want to intrude. But she insists and says yes, especially because her little siblings would definitely love to meet him. She even suggests that Amane invites Sayu, and according to Amane, she would also love to see our protagonist again. With so much pressure on him, the poor guy has no choice but to accept. But seriously, deep down, he's super excited about the idea and thanks them for the invitation. He had never made summer plans with friends before, so he's sure these will be some fantastic holidays. That said, we head straight to the beach. Our protagonist is there admiring the view, but suddenly his friends show up, looking gorgeous in their swimsuits. And of course, the poor guy finds himself in an awkward spot because he doesn't know where to look without seeming like a creep. But since everything's cool between them, Kotoko teases Amane because she looks adorable, and her friend asks her to stop staring like that. But either way, even wearing the swimsuit, she has no intention of going in the water. But before we go on with that, let's go back an hour in time. Our protagonist was super excited because he was going to the beach with his friends and thought it was going to be a fun and chill time for everyone, a real dream. But then, while he's lost in thought, he notices that Sayu has a new phone. She confirms and says she wanted to use it to take some good pictures. Our protagonist thinks they're just innocent, cute photos, but it looks like she has something else in mind. And when they get there, they're already suffering because it's insanely hot. It's right then that they run into Kotoko's family, and our protagonist gets startled because her older brother is a real giant. But he's super nice and introduces himself as Genshiro, who, as we already know, is the oldest brother. Besides that, her little brothers are there too. The blonde one is named Kakuru, and the one with black hair is Hibiki. Now our protagonists are feeling a bit more pressured, so they introduce themselves in a really formal way. And it's funny because Sayu introduces herself as Amane's responsible sister. Since they don't want to waste too much time, Kotoko tells the girls they'll go change somewhere else while our protagonist stays there with the others. Since he looks so nervous, Hibiki says he didn't expect his sister's boyfriend to be like that. Our protagonist immediately denies it, saying there's nothing going on between them. And Genichiro, being very polite, puts his hand on his shoulder and comments that it's obvious there's nothing between them, right? And faced with so much kindness, our protagonist swears to God they're just friends. Genichiro wants to know if he's ever tried anything with her, and the protagonist denies it again with all his heart. This ends up bothering Kotoko, who thinks he shouldn't deny it so strongly since she's actually pretty attractive. And her little sisters are just there happily watching her give the poor guy a hard time. Which brings us back to that situation from the beginning. Our protagonist was mesmerized because both of them look gorgeous in their swimsuits, but with Genichiro right behind him, he doesn't know how to answer when they ask if they look good. A little while later, everyone is getting things ready and taking the opportunity to prepare some delicious food. Genichiro tells everyone they can go in the water now, but when he sees his siblings heading over, he stops them. Kotoko wants to play, but he says they've got things to do. So Amane tries to politely ask if she can help with anything, but Genichiro tells her not to worry, it'll be quick. All this while he's holding his siblings like they're prisoners. So Amane and Takia head to the sea, and our protagonist realizes that this girl, no matter what angle you look at her from, is really beautiful. Seiyu starts teasing, saying she knows exactly what he's thinking and repeats exactly what I just said, that no matter the angle, she's gorgeous, and that he should take a romantic picture of the two of them, which was absolutely true. But Amane joins the conversation and says they're not going to fall for that trap, because actually it's Sayu who wants to take that picture. That makes the girl annoyed, since she only bought the phone for that, but now there's not much she can do. So Seiyu suggests they play in the sand and think about episode 7 of Brillamon, which immediately excites both of them, because that episode was all about the beach and featured a sand turtle that looked like a crab, but in the end it was a turtle. So they decide to do something similar, while Kotoko watches from afar, dying to join in too, but Genichiro won't let her. They end up making a really good replica, but Sayu says it can still be improved. She tells him to make the eyes bigger and says she's gonna step back a bit to see how it's turning out. Amane notices that her little sister is having fun and is happy, but she also apologizes to Takuya for making him play with a child. But for him, it's no problem at all. He says he could do this for hours. And while the two of them are talking and having an amazing time, Sayu goes to the back and takes a really romantic photo of the two. Amana thought she was taking a picture of the crab, but she wasn't. Even so, they keep working hard on the sculpture, and when they finish, they start taking pictures, but then they notice that Sayu isn't taking any photos. According to her, she already took the picture she needed. That leaves Amane pretty confused until she realizes that the girl took a picture of the two of them together. Because seriously, this little girl is pure chaos. After that, Kotoko shows up out of nowhere to play and immediately jumps on top of Amane. Kotoko is having a blast, but Amane wants revenge. So they start splashing water at each other, really enjoying the moment. Sayu thinks the two of them are acting like kids, but then they splash water on her too, and she joins in the fun. Meanwhile, on our protagonist's side, Kotoko's little brothers cornered him. They heard he got that giant chocolate bar he gave to Kotoko, and since he seems pretty skilled, they want to see what he's capable of. The protagonist realizes they want to play and even gets excited, but then the boys start dumping a ton of water on him. They also try to play with some balls, but it doesn't really work out, so they go back to dumping a bunch of water on him, and it keeps going, over and over again. Our protagonist ends up losing to the elementary school kids. Kotoko comes over and says he can get mad if he wants, because those boys have been acting up lately, but he says he doesn't mind. Since he's an only child, he thinks it's fun to imagine they're like his little brothers. Kakuru and Hibiki realize he's a good guy, so they want to take even more advantage of his kindness. They decide to bury the protagonist in the sand. And actually, Kotoko and the other girls also feel like doing the same thing. When they're done, he's just a head sticking out in the middle of the beach, but as long as everyone's having fun, it's all good. The little brothers end up getting tired and just leave. In the middle of all this, Amane gets really close to our protagonist, and Sayu takes the opportunity to snap even more photos of them together because, I repeat, this girl never misses a chance. What they didn't expect was that, at that moment, the boys would accidentally make Kotoko trip and she would fall almost kissing our protagonist. The poor thing almost has a heart attack right then and there, and to top it off, Jinshiro is watching the whole scene. He comes over and very kindly buries the protagonist even deeper in the sand, although they end up digging him out when it's time to eat. They brought some meat that's absolutely delicious, and Genichiro, being super nice to everyone jumps in as the cook. He even compliments Sayu, saying she's a good girl because she asked for vegetables on her own. On the other hand, he calls his own siblings dummies because all they care about is meat. Kotoko also decides to make a dish called yakisoba, which is a kind of noodle and it's delicious. Takuya is amazed. And on top of that, Kotoko's little siblings give him a piece to try. Of course, our protagonist thanks them and accepts right away, while Kotoko turns to Amane and comments that her siblings are already charmed by him. But then Kakuru asks our protagonist directly, why doesn't he go spend some time with Kotoko? After all, they're dating. Kotoko tries to say it's not really like that, but then Sayu goes into challenge mode, claiming that he has way more potential to be Amane's boyfriend. Amane also tries to deny it, but the little siblings start fighting among themselves, while the older sisters try to put a stop to that craziness. During the competition, Kakeru throws it in Kotoko and our protagonist's faces that they went to one of those photo booths, which is super romantic, especially since she made a point of showing off the photos when she got home. That makes Kotoko almost die of embarrassment, but Sayu asks if that's all they've got, because when our protagonist and Amane were at home, she overheard the two of them trying to do something dirty in the bedroom. Amane obviously has no idea what to say in this situation, and even to those kids, they all seem like a bunch of perverts. So the girls tell the boys to compete with things from their own world. Kakeru brags about reaching diamond rank in a game, and Ibiki says he made it to master rank, plus they have a bunch of warriors and some crazy stuff. Sayu realizes they're talking about video games and feels a little sorry for him for bragging about that, figuring the poor guys must not have anything better to do. That crushes their pride right away. Like I said, this little girl is ruthless. Even so, the boys don't give up. They want to try to see who wins at swimming or playing volleyball. Seeing that these kids just can't accept defeat, Sayu feels even more sorry for them. But then the argument starts to get out of hand and Kotoko has to step in so they don't end up fighting. Amane tells Sayu she was a bit harsh, and Kotoko also warns her brothers that they're just looking for trouble for no reason. With that, they lose their patience and just leave, leaving Sayu there all alone. Kotoko was about to say something to the little girl, but our protagonist suggests they go buy some ice cream. He even offers to go himself and asks Sayu to come along, which the little girl agrees to without any problem. When they leave, he uses the excuse that he wouldn't be able to choose by himself, thanks the little girl for her help, and asks what she'd like to do when they get back since there's still plenty of time left. He says he was super excited for this day because it's the first time he's going to the beach with friends. Actually, he was so pumped yesterday that he could barely sleep because he didn't just want to have fun with Amane and Kotoko, but also with their siblings, including her, since if everyone got along, the day would be amazing, and that would make him really happy. Seiyu's no fool and knows what he's trying to do, but she reminds them that they also said it would be fun to take lots of pictures of everyone together. So she warns that the ice creams are gonna melt and decides to take them. She grabs everything and runs off, but pauses just to thank our protagonist. Meanwhile, Kakeru and Ibiki aren't having that much fun. Then Sayu shows up and they think she's looking to start a fight again, but the girl apologizes. She says she behaved badly, that the barbecue's really fun, and that she wishes everyone could get along. So she asks for forgiveness by handing them some ice cream. And of course, the boys can't say no. Since they're super embarrassed, Kotoko takes the chance to tease him with Sayu. Genichiro, who's with them, just watches and thinks about how beautiful youth is. And that kind of stings because he acts like an old guy and he's only 25. And I'm 25 too, and I act exactly the same way. Anyway, our protagonist is happy that the kids made up, and Amane thanks him for helping with that, even though Takuya thinks he didn't really do anything to deserve a thank you. Sayu hands him his ice cream and everyone goes off to play. They run around all over the place and come up with all sorts of things they think are fun. Genichiro even tries to teach our protagonist a few things, but it doesn't really work out. They split open a watermelon and go back to running around, and Sayu also shares her phone number with the boys. For our protagonist, everything's a lot of fun. But then Genichiro shows up wanting to know something. Who does he like more, Amane or his little sister? Takuya tries to explain that they're just friends, but Genichiro says, okay, but imagine one of them asks you out. Who would you go with? That gets a few laughs out of the protagonist, but it also leaves him a bit traumatized since he's already gone out with both of them at the same time. Even so, Genichiro keeps it real and says that either way, he has to treat both of them really well. Kotoko and Amane are popular girls, of course, and that attracts a lot of unwanted attention to him. He warns that, as a brother, he can't stand any guy getting close to his sister or her friends without taking it seriously. Takuya says he totally understands, and that annoys Genichiro, who says there's no way he could understand, but the protagonist insists that he really does. He says he would never allow anyone to hurt his friends, even if that person was their own brother. Genichiro is pretty surprised by that answer. I would have been left speechless, but Genichiro is polite. He just smiles and gives his support, saying that maybe Takuya is actually good for him. He asks the guy to take good care of his sister in Amane, and reminds him that a respectable guy never makes his girl cry. Our protagonist promises he would never do something like that. But right at that moment, the girls come over, and Kotoko blurts out that last time she cried because of our protagonist. The situation gets tense right then and there. Genichiro almost loses his cool, but Takuya quickly explains that she's definitely talking about the movie they watched, and in the end, things more or less settle down. When it's time to leave, everyone starts packing up their things. The girls go take a shower, and our protagonist wanders around the place, noticing that Amane and Sayu still haven't come out. Right at the edge of the beach, he finds Kotoko eating a shaved ice. Takuya asks if they're not going to clean up or change clothes, but she explains that since they're going back by car, there's no need. She also takes the opportunity to let our protagonist know that she won't be able to help Amane with what she asked for the other day because she'll have to go out with her family. Our protagonist says it's no problem because he can go with the girl himself, since it's probably just Comic Tan, an anime event. Kotoko teases him, saying that means the two of them will have a date alone, but our protagonist doesn't see it that way. He admits that he enjoys it much more when he spends time with both of them. That's what makes him happiest. So he asks if they can hang out together more often, which isn't a problem for Kotoko at all. She promises that things will stay that way, but then they stop to watch the sunset and suddenly start staring at each other. It's kind of an awkward moment because neither of them says anything. Our protagonist tries to break the ice as best he can while she just keeps looking at him. And just when Takuya was about to say something, Ginashiro shows up in front of him, reminding him that he'd get mad if he crossed the line. Kodako gets super emotional, to the point where she can't even move. The little siblings show up at the rest of the stuff and notice their sister is as red as a tomato, asking if she has a fever. In the end, the family heads back on their own in their car, while the poor guys stick together and take the bus back, like regular folks do. Or rather, in the case of the Japanese, they take the train. While they're waiting, Amane orders some drinks, and Sayu takes the chance to show our protagonist the photo she took today. And of course, there are a bunch of pictures of him with everyone. Sayu mentions that she had a lot of fun today, and Takuya agrees that everything was really great. So, everyone's happy. On the way back, our protagonist admits that he's exhausted. Amane is feeling the same way, and says she could even fall asleep. Sayu tries to cheer her friend up, saying she can wake her up later, because after all, she's not a little kid and can stay awake until they arrive, but she ends up falling asleep next to our protagonist herself. Amane apologizes for that, but Takuya says it's no problem at all. They look super cute. An older lady getting off the train even comments to Amane that her little daughter's adorable. Amane tries to explain that she's just like a little sister, but it doesn't help at all. Afterwards, she asks Takuya if they really look that old, since the lady thought they were newlyweds. But in the middle of talking, she feels bad because she realizes the protagonist has fallen asleep. Seeing him like that, she decides to take advantage of the moment and leans on him, making for a super cute scene. But suddenly, the darn train jolts and both of them wake up startled. Our protagonist apologizes because he realized she wanted to say something before he fell asleep, but she's super embarrassed, so she brushes it off and says it was nothing. We're going back to the beginning of August 8. Picture the scene. Our protagonist is super focused, trying to do his homework, or at least he's trying, because what he really wants to do is draw Brillamon. But right at that moment, a message from Amane comes in. She'd already been waiting for him, and the heat was brutal, but the girl toughed it out. When Takuya shows up, she breaks into a big smile, all happy that he actually came. And the reason is simple. She just made a pretty random request. Our protagonist doesn't really mind, but he's full of questions. After all, they're in a wedding chapel, which leaves the guy pretty confused. That's when Amane drops the ball. Her mom asked her to model in a surprise photo shoot, and on top of that, told her to bring a boy along. Takuya immediately thinks he's just going to be the assistant since he doesn't see himself as model material. But guess what? He was exactly what she needed. Field of drama. He did not see that coming. Right away, he tries to turn around and make a run for it, but Amane doesn't let him. She tries to calm things down by saying it's just a photo for an article and only his hand will be in the shot. Plus, there's going to be payment. If she's insisting this much, it's because he's the only guy she could ask for this favor. And seeing the girl like this is a low blow for our poor protagonist. Thinking it's just this once, he ends up a gram. Amane was already thanking him when suddenly another woman shows up. She introduces herself as Amane Tamaki and is all happy to see our protagonist. Amane explains that the woman is a hairdresser, a makeup artist, and by the way, her mother. When our protagonist lays eyes on her, he immediately notices that the woman is gorgeous, just like her daughter. At first glance, they seem like those distant people you wouldn't even have the courage to start a conversation with. But not at all, she's super friendly, especially with her daughter. Actually, she's super excited to do the girl's makeup, calling her the most beautiful in the universe. This catches our protagonist off guard. Amane is already kind, but her mother is 1,000 times more expressive, and the first person that comes to his mind for comparison is Kotoko. That's how he immediately understands why the two of them get along so well. When they go in, Tamaki suggests that our protagonist go get changed while she takes care of her daughter's makeup. So he ends up in the hands of a lady in charge of costumes who's also super nice, but the poor guy is still a bundle of nerves with all of this. While he's going through this trial by fire, Tamaki takes the opportunity to chat with her daughter, teasing her a bit. She comments that the boy seems a bit quiet and reserved, but that he's a good kid. Then she asks the question, is he the one you've been spending so much time with? Her mom says it brings back a lot of memories, because the two of them are just like her and their dad were back in high school. Poor Amane is already used to this, so she just tries to ignore it. Or at least to trot. Out of nowhere, her mom drops the big question and asks if they're dating. Amane immediately shuts it down, saying there's nothing like that, they're just friends and she's not interested in romance at all. Tamaki, laughing at the situation, says that in that case, she's safe. After all, people say that if you wear a wedding dress before getting married, it ends up delaying the wedding. And that's exactly what she's about to do, which doesn't bother Amane at all. But then her mom says the spell could backfire. What if things speed up when Takuya sees her all made up and stunning? Amane says that's impossible, especially since he likes Brillamon more than he likes her. But that doesn't discourage her mom, who's super confident that something's gonna happen. Meanwhile, our protagonist is suffering. He feels totally out of place, doesn't understand anything that's going on, or why he's even dressed like that if it was just to take a picture of his hand. To make things worse, they put makeup on him and gave him a weird hairstyle. Then he thinks, if I'm dressed like this, just imagine Amane. Right at that moment, they announce that the model is ready. Amane walks calmly down the aisle. And wow, she looks absolutely stunning. Our protagonist stands there mesmerized, unable to react. Soon, they're put together on the platform. The embarrassment hits them both hard. Amane waits for him to say something, but the poor guy can't even get the words out. Meanwhile, her mom is beaming, like she already knew this was gonna happen. The photographer starts working his magic, but since he notices Takuya is stiff as a board, he gives him a few tips to help him relax. On top of that, her mom wants him to be bolder. She asks Takuya to hold on his hand, and that just triples their embarrassment. But since it's work, there's not much they can do about it. They try, but the result is terrible. They look like two rusty robots. Amane says it's normal since it's their first professional photo shoot. Thinking about that, Tamaki decides to show something to break the ice. It's some photos of Amane when she was a little kid. She has a really funny face in the pictures. Amane gets mad at her for showing those, while Takuya almost dies laughing. But in the next photo, Takuya doesn't find it funny anymore. He notices that Amane's poses are super athletic, like it's a natural talent. Of course, that just makes the girl even more annoyed. Taking advantage of the mood, Tamaki says that now they're more relaxed, and that's great. A good photographer captures the energy of the moment, so she just asks them to try to have fun. Takuya thinks that's how a professional acts, while Amane is sure her mom just wanted to show off her embarrassing photos. Our protagonist keeps teasing her, saying that even back then she already looked like an otaku. She tries to deny it in every way, insisting that she wasn't and still isn't, but his shamelessness makes her crack up and start laughing too. The two of them are in a super light and happy mood, and Tamaki just stands there, admiring the scene. Time goes by, and the photographer keeps snapping pictures. They're still a little embarrassed, but now they're doing way better. When Tamaki sees her daughter like this, it's hard to believe that people used to call her the Iron Mask. Now she's all happy and excited, and just like her mom predicted, they're really having fun at the shoot. So much so that time flies by and they finish the photos without even noticing. Tamaki takes the opportunity to show more pictures of little Amane. There's one, for example, where she had a bubble hanging from her nose. Takuya thinks it's all awesome and asks to see more. Then we jump to the middle August. Our protagonist is super happy because he hit the jackpot and got some rare figures he wanted. But the heat is unbearable. No one can stand it. He runs over to a vending machine to see if there's anything good. Out of nowhere, Kotoko shows up super annoyed, asking what the heck he thinks he's doing. Takuya, all innocent, is happy to see her, but she keeps pressing him about what he's up to. He says he just wanted a drink, which makes her even more exasperated. She calls him a dummy and tells him that inside the store, things are half the price. Our protagonist finds it funny because he was just about to put money in the machine, but she doesn't waste any time, grabs him by the hand and drags the guy inside. The girl immediately fires off another question, wanting to know what he was doing downtown. He blurts out that it was because of the anime event. He stopped by an electronics store or the supermarket, the usual stuff. The important thing is that they get exactly where Kotoko said the drinks were cheaper. After buying them, she even jokes that they got 2 for the price of 1. But changing the subject, she has a burning question. Remember that barbecue and what Sayu said? Yeah, so she wants to know in detail what he was up to behind the scenes with Amane. The poor guy almost coughs up a lung from the shock. Right away, he tries to defend himself, saying nothing inappropriate happened. Kotoko doesn't let up and teases him, suggesting maybe one of those classic accidents happened where the two end up falling on top of each other. He denies it again. Even so, she's impressed because Amane took him to her own room, which is already a pretty big step. Riding the momentum, she blurts out, "Do you want to come over to my place too?" And there goes the protagonist, almost losing his other lung. Seeing how desperate he looks, she tries to fix what she said. She explains that her little brothers loved playing with him at the beach and won't stop bugging her to bring him over someday. But she's also super honest and admits she'd love it if he came. Takuya thinks it's a cool idea, but he doesn't really get why. Then Kotoko gets sulky, saying it was pretty messed up that they went out and left her out of it. Well, since they're together now, she wants to make the most of it. They start goofing around in the store, checking out a bunch of stuff. They keep messing around all over the place, super excited. But then, Kotoko's phone rings. Takuya realizes she was waiting for a friend named Mayo. Kotoko tells her on the phone that she's already on her way to karaoke. Our protagonist doesn't mind at all. Even if she was just killing time with him, the time they spent together was a lot of fun. Kotoko thanks him for keeping her company and hints that maybe they could go out again sometime. He says of course, but turns as red as a tomato. And just like that, time flies again, because that's what time does, right? It's already the end of August. Our protagonist still has that vague intention of doing his homework, but it stays just an intention. The guy doesn't do a single thing. To make things worse, there's only 1 week of summer vacation left. Then his phone beeps. It's a message from Amane in their group chat suggesting they go see the fireworks on the 25th. Kotoko immediately agrees, and so does our protagonist. The guy can barely contain his happiness because he's dying to see how his friends will look. Not out of any bad intentions, but because he really appreciates the aesthetics of it all. He didn't think they'd wear yukata, but yes, they decide to go with the traditional outfit. For him, that was already a total win. As you'd expect from a summer festival, the place is packed with people. Kotoko immediately wants to hold hands so they don't get lost in the crowd, and even jokes that this way they'd look like a couple. Takuya says that if they were a couple, it would be fine, but then his brain processes what he just said and he remembers he did exactly that with Amane. The guy just freezes. Amane realizes what he's talking about and things get awkward. Kotoko, who never misses a beat, immediately asks when they had this intimate moment. Of course, the two of them try to explain that nothing really happened. Kotoko complains, saying that Amane told her about the job, but left out the part where they held hands. Takuya, trying to defend himself, blurts out that Kotoko can't say anything since they also held hands when they went to the store. Now it's Amane's turn to demand answers, because she had no idea about this story. Kotoko tries to brush it off, saying it was pure coincidence and there was nothing shady about it, but she doesn't seem too happy with the situation. Since she's someone who likes to solve things, she suggests another idea. Takuya holds Amane's hand on one side and Kotoko holds his hand on the other, but it just gets way too awkward and they start complaining. Our protagonist has no idea where to look anymore. Even though she's embarrassed, Kotoko doesn't give up, and thanks to her persistence, the three of them start walking really close together. But it's hard to move like that, so they end up letting go of each other's hands so they don't bump into people. Realizing it wasn't gonna work, they decided to walk like normal people. As they're walking around, they come across a booth full of masks, and Takuya and Amane immediately recognize the Bridgemon ones. They all get super excited and keep wandering around the booths, playing every game they can. Of course, they also take the chance to eat, because festival food looks amazing. But then, Amane bumps into a friend she hasn't seen in a long time, Haruka. They used to study together, and her friend says that the whole gang is there too. Amane asks to excuse herself so she can go say hi real quick, leaving Kotoko and our protagonist alone. Kotoko asks if maybe they should wait for her somewhere quieter. They start walking, and she comments on how these festivals are always packed with people, but wherever Amane is, they're sure to find her easily. To pass the time, she decides to share some gossip about her brother, General. He went to the festival the other day and she was about to say he was getting involved with a girl, but suddenly the fireworks start going off. They were so bright and beautiful that the two of them are left mesmerized. That's when things get exciting. While looking up at the sky, Takuya can't stop thinking about everything he's experienced with them this summer. His friends are really special to him, not to mention the fun crowd he met along the way. All of that led to this exact moment. Kotoko is amazed by the show, not even knowing where to look, while Takuya just starts crying tears of joy. She gets startled when she sees the tears and gets worried. He brushes it off, saying it's nothing bad. It's just that he really enjoyed this summer, and now he's feeling down because it's ending. Konako thinks it's cute and laughs. She reminds him that this isn't the end of everything. He already promised that they'd spend more time together, so the friendship will keep going. Whether it's at school events or any other hangout, there's still a lot of cool stuff to do. Hearing that, Takuya gets all excited. You can just tell. At that same moment, Amane was saying goodbye to her friends. One of them even apologizes for making her come all the way there. But Amane is super happy to see them again and says they should catch up later. That's when one of the friends notices how much Amane has changed. The rest of the group immediately agrees. She's way prettier now. And it's not just her looks, her vibe is way friendlier than back in school. She even shows a super kind side that surprises everyone. Amane is over the moon with the compliments because she hadn't even noticed the change herself. Anyway, she says her goodbyes and the fireworks keep lighting up the sky above. Takuya was just chilling there, admiring the fireworks, but Kotoko seemed like she wanted to say or do something. She couldn't stop staring at the boy until she noticed one thing. Her heart was beating way too fast. She thought, this could be a problem. Right then, the biggest firework of the night goes off. Seconds before it explodes in the sky, Kotoko gathers her courage and confesses to our protagonist that she likes him. And she likes him a lot. Amane was coming back right at that moment. She sees the scene from a distance and immediately gets what's going on. Meanwhile, Takuya was almost having a meltdown from embarrassment, and Kotoko wasn't far behind. The fireworks kept going off non-stop, making a huge racket. When Takuya finally managed to open his mouth, no sound came out. But Kotoko didn't take back what she said. She turned her back, dying of embarrassment, and repeated that she liked him. But since the embarrassment was through the roof, she tried to play it off and added, "I like you as a friend." Takuya gets the message, but the mood is super awkward, with both of them stumbling over their words. He tries to say that he didn't really know what to think, and she emphasizes again that she cares a lot about him, but just as a friend. A little nervous, she even asks if he got mad. He just replies that he also really likes her as a friend. He feels a bit awkward, thinking it sounds weird when he says that, but on the other hand, she's super happy. She was about to thank him when Amane finally shows up. She comes over already asking what the two of them are up to, since they're not paying attention to the fireworks. With nowhere to run, Kotoko comes clean. Amane's eyes go wide and she asks, "Did you confess to him?" Kotoko tries to put out the fire, saying it wasn't like that at all, that it was just a way of saying she really likes him, but just as friends. Yakuya, just being himself, says he was really happy to hear that. It was the first time anyone had ever told him they liked him that way. That makes Amane docile. The fireworks keep going off non-stop in the background. Kotoko tries to play dumb, but Amane doesn't let it slide. She grabs her friend and asks, very seriously, if she really meant it just as friends. All nervous, she says yes, but then she turns the tables and tells Amane to say the same thing. She blurts out, I really like you too, Ame." Amane plays along and says she likes her too, but then embarrassment takes over, and they both start laughing. They let that awkwardness go, and go back to admiring the fireworks lighting up the night. That was the end of the episode. If you made it this far, comment part 7. I'll give a heart to everyone who comments so I know who the real fans of the channel are. Subscribe and turn on notifications, cause what's coming next is gonna blow your mind. And hey, don't leave without watching this video that's popping up on your screen right now. The drama over there is even crazier than what you just saw. Without further ado, Rababana is signing off. See you next time.